Today I want to talk about how the inner critic can become your outer critic. How that voice inside your head that tells you that you're not good enough, that you're the wrong shape or size, can become the voice that you criticize others with. So if you had a difficult childhood in which you didn't feel seen or loved or perhaps validated in the way that you needed to be validated and loved and seen because your parents were emotionally immature for whatever reason, because they had their own trauma that stopped them from being there for you, or they were overwhelmed by the busyness of life. If that was the case for you, then it may well be that you were spoken to and had things done to you that weren't great. What happens when we are triggered as mothers, either by our children or by our partners, into that disproportionate state of mind, when you find you are furiously angry or dreadfully ashamed or crazily upset by something which actually didn't warrant that type of reaction, what happens is that we're often in a threat response. Logically, it may not make sense that if your children are fighting in front of you, that should make you ridiculously angry and want to fight yourself. It's not logical. But to your inner child, to the person inside you that feels unsafe, if that particular circumstance reminds her of a time in her childhood where she felt threatened, then she will go into a threat response state, into fight or flight or freeze or fawn, which is when we try and appease people to make things better. So the part of you that's reacting is your inner child. And what happens is, if you're going into a threat response, this bit of your brain at the front, your prefrontal cortex, which deals with logic, which deals with reasoning, which deals with the consequences of your actions, this goes offline. It's not even online for you to access it. So if you're having a disproportionate reaction to something your children or your partner may have done, I'm using them as an example because often it's with them that we have the strongest reactions because we feel the safest with them. We can show them our real selves. If you're going into this disproportionate reaction, then what may be happening is that this bit goes offline and then you are reacting from a different part of the brain, this bit, the survival brain or the limbic brain, where you say and you do things that were said or done to you. So, how does this link back to the inner critic? If you've got a harsh inner critic that tells you off for not being good enough, that tells you that you are lazy, that tells you that you are a procrastinator, that tells you that you're the wrong shape or size, that tells you that you're not kind, all of these kinds of things, these phrases and words have been inherited by probably your parents, definitely figures of authority from when you were little and your brain was developing. If these things were stored in your survival brain, in the limbic part of your brain, because they were given to you or told to you or done to you when you were being told off, or when you were in a threatening situation, when you were being punished for something that you did, and if you were put into that state of threat by the way in which your parents were doing it, then it will have got lodged here and then it will get regurgitated onto your kids or your partner when you're in that threat response area. So what I'm saying is, if you feel like you often say things you don't mean, or you say words that just seem to come out of nowhere, like vicious name calling, and you don't know why you've called your child that and you feel awful about it, which is the whole shame cycle that comes afterwards, it's not your fault. It's not your fault because this bit of your brain is not online. You are not aware of the consequences of your actions. You're not aware that what you're saying and doing isn't kind, isn't nice, won't fix the situation. What you're doing is you're repeating words or you're repeating actions that were done or said to you when you were little. Therefore, it's not your fault. And I want to reassure you that you can change this. It's about becoming aware of what was said and done to you, of how that was said and done to you, and of healing those experiences from your past so that they're no longer there. So that this part of your brain can come back online and you can be the mum that you want to be. Hope that was helpful. There's a lot more about the inner critic on my website, www.laviniabrown.com. A lot more on healing your inner child. But today it was about how your inner critic can become your outer critic. Not because we want it to, but because it's part of our threat response system.